ask you a sort of non-Ukraine question. So I was just in Eastern Europe, much poorer than the United States, but one thing you notice in the cities I have visited there is that there aren't a lot of, really any, drug addicts living on the streets, OTing on the streets. The so-called homeless problem, which is a huge feature of life in this country, doesn't kind of exist or seem to exist there. What do you think of the fact that we've got hundreds of thousands of people living on the streets and dying there? What should we do about it specifically?
In America?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we need to recognize is that we are in the midst of a mental health crisis as a nation.
Yeah.
You think about the fact that there are several pieces of the puzzle that come together that we have not yet addressed. You look back into the 1980s and early 90s, we had 600,000 additional hospital beds for mental health issues that we have today. So part of the crisis that we see manifesting in three major areas is a mental health crisis that we can help solve if we address the actual mental health crisis that underlies those issues. The first one is the fact that over 100,000 Americans have lost their lives to overdoses in the last 12 months. 70,000 Americans lost their lives because of fentanyl. We could stop fentanyl from crossing over our southern border by closing our southern border. Building a wall. For under, this nation spends $7 trillion. It would take $10 billion to finish the wall, and for an additional $5 billion, we could use the available technology to surveil our southern border and our ports of entry to slow down fentanyl from coming into our country. This is a part of that mental health epidemic that we face. Secondly, I'd say is that we always hear people talk about gun violence in this nation. No one actually takes a step back from the conversation about gun violence and asks yourself, what does it appear to be? 55% or so, over 50% of gun-related deaths are suicides. No one ever says that. That is a mental health crisis. And you add those two together and couple it with the reality that because of COVID, we locked our kids out of schools because the left is so committed to the teachers' unions that they did the wrong thing for our kids. And what did we see as a result? A 30% plus increase of our youngsters going to the ER for mental health challenges. We need to get back to some honest bedrock truth that sets captives free, and the way that we do that is by focusing our attention on these three major issues that we need to address as a nation.